Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to speak to you as though you were a bridge club in Salford, or a bowls club in Truro, or a mosque in Nottingham, or your mum or dad or grandparents. And then I'm going to say a little bit about how we see things developing and evolving. And this is the challenge, as has been said. It's seen as a tidal wave of need coming at us, but it needn't be like that. So let me now go to the bridge club, the bowls club, or the mosque. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you the facts of life. Not the birds and the bees, but the new facts of life about living longer, better. And I sometimes call these the birds and the bees 2.0. So let's start off by looking at what happens to us as we live longer. And there are two phases in life: a phase of growth and development, a turning point, and then it's downhill all the way. But don't get too depressed by that, because there's a lot we can do about the rate at which we go downhill. You see, aging by itself is not a cause of major problems until the late 90s. You need a bit of luck, of course. You need a bit of luck to avoid the diseases we can't prevent, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. You need a bit of luck to be born to the right parents. And it may be parents who value education are even more important than parents who are wealthy. But whatever happens, for most of us, a fitness gap opens up. So the three other processes other than aging are, firstly, a fitness loss. And the turning point for many people, of course, is in their early 20s when they get their first job. And I never use the word lifestyle. These are environmental problems caused by the car, the computer, and the desk job. But a fitness gap opens up, affecting all aspects of physical fitness: strength, suppleness, skill, and stamina. But the evidence is that we can restore fitness at any age. And here's an example of a very good randomized controlled trial increasing within 3 months strength of people in 90 plus. And we now know that we can close the fitness gap at any age: strength, stamina, suppleness, and skill. And I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, in the bridge club or the mosque, there is a fifth S, beginning with a fifth aspect of fitness beginning with S, and that is psychological, as I groan in the room at this point. So the concept of fitness also relates to the brain and the mind. And actually, I never use the word physical activity now. I talk about activity, physical, cognitive, and emotional. So at any age, the fitness gap can be narrowed. And here's a good example of a woman I met recently. She was in a hotel and she was a bit unsteady when she got up from the chair, and I offered to help her to the lift. But she said, I never use lifts. And she does these 63 steps 4 times a day. I did them with her and she talked the whole way up. Now she's been lucky, but she does 20 minutes exercise every morning before she comes down. You see, the concept of fitness is like this. If the fitter you are, the greater your maximum level of ability, and, very important, the more quickly you recover. Resilience. So maximum ability and resilience for strength, stamina, suppleness, and skill. And here's a picture of the environment in which we live. Look at this poor chap here, and you can see in this picture here, you can see the car, the computer, and the desk job. And you see what he's doing? He's having lunch at his desk. Now, he is having some greenery there, so let's give the man some credit. But this is the modern environment in which we live. And genetically, we've evolved for the hundreds of generations to be very active without much calorie intake. And in the last 2 generations, activity has decreased and calorie availability is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Shiny packets are available everywhere. Just checking the time. So we then need to move to the second process. Remember, I said that aging is not a cause of major problems until the late 90s. Loss of fitness is the first factor. The second is disease. And when you get a disease, the best possible rate of decline accelerates. And I will point out to you that I'll talk about the rate of decline. People, if you manage to keep fit, the 1 hour cycling record for people age 75 is still 40 kilometers. So the slope is not very great, providing you find the time to keep fit. But when disease comes on, then a problem occurs. And I had a heart attack 10 years ago and lost a chunk of heart muscle. But what you can see here is that the fitness gap gets wider faster. And it may be that it leads you to drop below what I call the line. The line. And the line is the point at which you can't get to the toilet in time. And ladies and gentlemen, you may be hoping you pop off with a nice little heart attack, but I can tell you if you do nothing, you're more likely to finish up in a chair, unable to get to the toilet, and a bloody nuisance to your nearest and dearest. And the reason the fitness gap gets wider faster is that other people tell you to take it easy. Your son or daughter arranges for Ocado to deliver instead of helping you regain the ability to walk to the shops. The good news is that at any age, no matter how many long-term conditions you've got, the fitness gap can be closed and keep you above the line. And here's the evidence for it. It's an amazing report produced by the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges in 2015, and it's called Exercise, the Miracle Cure, and the role of the doctor in promoting it. And what we're doing is introducing activity prescriptions. So for every drug prescription, there'll be an activity prescription. And this might be a referral to a local gym or a trainer. So, Mr. Hancock's still there. I first did this with Mr. Hancock. Remember him? Was still there. But we are piloting this in Southwest London, and we're getting approval of what's called NHS Digital. So this will happen. Even if the GP forgets to press the button, an activity prescription will be issued. This activity might be walking. And here's the Active 10 walking app produced by the NHS. And here's my own little book called Dr. Gray's Walking Cure, which says that really brisk walking can cure everything. Brisk walking is walking quickly enough to feel your breath coming a little bit quickly, but you can still carry on a conversation. So we could recommend walks. We could recommend walks round about where you live, short walks, long walks, linked to the Ramblers. And we might also give you a home exercise program. This is EXI, developed by 2 physiotherapists. So we can give you a home exercise program. And there's also wonderful technology like MotiTech, which could be prescribed. And every care home should have MotiTech and a treadmill. There's a new type of treadmill from Oxford that doesn't move. But either the GP prescribes it or the system prescribes it. So if you get type 2 diabetes or whatever, or if you've got 5 medications, then automatically the GP information system will be prescribing activity, physical, social, and cognitive. Here's social, for example. And as you can see from this picture, there's people doing, this is from Move It or Lose It, and Educate Generation Games. And this picture is also, there's one great problem group that we're worried about. And this picture demonstrates the absence of this problem group. Just which group's missing? They're called MEN. It's a very big group in society, and they're really the problem. So we need to get the women to sort them out. And the activity is very good if it's a social mission, raising money for the local wildlife trust. And I'm also very interested in competition, because the one thing that would motivate the older people of Herefordshire is raising more money than those bees, those bastards over in Worcestershire. and you can always find local rivalries to use. So the third process is negative thinking, ageism. Now, things are changing, and I'm now leaving, and I'm saying a little bit to you for a few minutes about what we're planning to do about all of this. So this is, the culture is changing, and this was the lead article in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2020. And I thought this would be a drug, but look, isn't this amazing? In the top medical journal. So we're moving from this to this. This is the mission of the Optimal Aging Programme, and we're now working in about 22 counties and cities in England to implement this. So we need a revolution to turn this idea upside down. A living longer, better revolution. And there are three aims. First, to increase health and well-being. The second, to improve well-being in the short term. And we see a result within months if we get more active physically, cognitively, and emotionally. And the third is to reduce the need for health and social care. And that's what happens in the last 3 years of life for many people, but we can change that. So that's what we're doing. The Living Longer Better program is seeking to bring about a reduction in the need for health and social care. And that's the language we use for people as we bring together the NHS, Age UK, the active partnerships of Sport England and local authorities. And then for the public, who are actually very worried about social care themselves now, and it's the one thing they want to avoid, partly for financial reasons, but partly for it's the dementia and frailty are the diseases most feared now in society. Cancer is no longer the most feared disease. So I think that's enough from me. I'm very happy to take questions and comments. Richard, could you remove the slides? That's it.
Thank you so much. Really very interesting and a packed slide deck there. So I'm sure people will look forward to sort of reviewing that. And there was a question in the chat around slides. And yes, you will be able to have copies of those. You can download them from the file section online or follow the link after the webinar. So thank you for that. Some really interesting points, Muir, around well, a couple of things. And one thing in particular that I think is definitely not just specific to the older population, but this whole notion that we have designed, you know, activity out of our lives. And, you know, having been in the industry for a long time, it's encouraging to see that trying to be reworked back in, whether that's around transport, whether that's great places, parks, places and that type of thing. But that messaging around take it easy is a really fascinating one, isn't it? And I'm intrigued to find out more of your sort of perspective with the organisations that you've sort of worked with and the learnings that you have. How do you?
This is the cultural revolution. So our plan is to give everyone 50, 60 plus a learning program through GP information systems, and obviously digital inclusion is part of this, but it is happening very quickly, just as it happened with the telephone. Secondly, we need for every million population, there's about 1,000 people need to think differently, including the medical profession. Many of them are volunteers, actually, in a wonderful meeting in Worcestershire on Monday, where at least half the audience was 60 plus, as well as the professionals. So we need to change the culture, to change the language. You see, I'm looking here, Philippa Gill says, I'm a leisure club manager at a retirement village. Well, Philippa, I'm also banning the word leisure. You're a well-being club manager. So leisure's got to go. And I don't like the word retirement either. And I'm trying to replace that with renaissance.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a cultural revolution that is needed.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. There are environmental obstacles, but we also need the cultural revolution.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, actually, because when you look at topics such as gender equality, so I was particularly interested in your audience point around more than half the audience being 60 plus. Often when we look at gender, particularly within sport and leisure industry, I was
what industry did you say there?
this well-being industry that we're referring to.
Yeah, right, okay.
They say you've affected me now. But actually, you're often talking to a room full of women.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. So this whole co-design piece, whether that's young people, whether that's people from different backgrounds, whether it's around age, it's a common theme, I think, within that wider well-being industry that is something we can probably learn from.
Oh yes,
different parts of it, can't we, as well?
Yeah. No, yeah.
I'm interested. Sorry, go on, Mia.
No, on you go.
So you talked about kind of the pilot that you're doing down in London and this Living Longer Better. And we had a brief chat before we came live onto the webinar around kind of bringing fitness back into health.
Yes.
What obstacles have you kind of encountered in doing that? Because I think lots of people from within the industry would have spoken about this for a long time, but it doesn't seem to have necessarily moved on. So I'm interested in the obstacles and how you've kind of helped navigate some of that.
Well, it's partly political. We've got a thing called the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, looks after Sport England and the 55,000 trainers. So we're approaching that by talking about networks. There should be a network for every county, every city. I don't believe in structural reorganization. That's not necessary. We've created the concept of a national activity therapy service. So using the term activity therapy, as well as drug therapy. And that's partly to capture the interest of the NHS. But I'm saying to the Department of Health, and I'm meeting some people tomorrow, that there's 55,000 trainers out there, as well as teachers of Pilates and yoga. And their principle of, as you know, of coaching is to close the gap between potential and performance. Well, that's exactly the same as rehabilitation. So NHS rehabilitation reaches about 5 million people, but that means there's about another 16 million people we've got to reach. And there just aren't enough physios and rehab clinics to do that. And we don't need them because the people who've done sports science or exercise physiology or trainer courses, they've got all that is needed. So that's what we're trying to do, is to bring that together. And we've got about 22 counties and cities in England already starting. So I now need to roll that out nationally.
Brilliant. And just finally then, a point on, you've talked about kind of digital being a real enabler and the ability of technology and the system around prescribing that you're piloting currently. Again, my experience often has been that it's easier, for example, if you know a local wellbeing centre or a community group are running an activity that's appropriate for a particular age group or group within the community, and you're aware of that because you're a GP who happens to know that exists, that's great. You can kind of signpost people in. It feels like there needs to be a movement around, there are lots of different activities that people would relate to. So not everybody wants to go for a walk, and not everybody will want to be referred into a wellbeing centre to work one-to-one with a coach, but somebody might benefit from some sort of group activity local to them. Is there a role, obviously with open data and that being more accepted within the industry now and people understanding it better, is there a role around somebody somewhere creating something that populates that's prescription service with more and relevant activities than currently perhaps is on offer?
Yeah, well, we've got it. It's called social prescribing. And the other very, very important bit of data is the postcode. So imagine your mum was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Do you have a mum? Where does she live?
In Spain, lucky her.
Yes, okay. But imagine
I did buy her a yoga mat for Christmas to say you need to sort that core strength.
But if she lived in
she lived in Stockport previously.
If she lived in North Stockport, the practice knows her postcode, and the social prescribing lead for Stockport will have put into the GP database a list of things by postcode. So your mum could be told, well, here's a walking club, or here's a University of the Third Age, or here's something
Yeah.
And there are 2 near you and 1 a bit further away. So the postcode is key. It also allows us to identify areas of deprivation and make a special effort to reach those. So it's pretty simple stuff, really.
Yeah.
I mean, when I speak to the technical people, they say, "Oh, yeah, that's dead easy." So the local face-to-face is coming in from social prescribing, but that'll be part of the digital prescription.
Would it be helpful for those social prescribers to have a mechanism by which they don't need to input the data and that the data can be automatically fed in?
Sure. Yep, yeah. That's technically very easy. When you're dealing with these big technical problems, there are always 3 issues: technical, managerial, and cultural. And it's never the technical problem that's the difficulty. So yeah, that could, clever people could do that.
Wicked.
And that'll come. I mean, there's a move now to get people's data from their gym part of their health record.
Okay.
So these are virtual reality and the internet make all these things up. I don't know how to do it, but I know that if I'm clear what I want done, there'll be very clever people who can say, "Yeah, that's easy. We can do that."
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I could talk to you all day. I've got so many questions, but I better move us on. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.